Planned Brotherhood is not affiliated or associated with Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a registered trademark of Planned Parenthood, Federation of America Incorporated.
I think we make enough fart jokes on the show.
Do I think we make enough fart jokes?
It feels like we're lacking a little bit as far as fart jokes go.
I think we leave...
Has there ever been a fart joke that has made you laugh? In a movie or anything? Blazing Saddles, of course, is springing to mind immediately. I'm being sarcastic. Everybody knows I hate Mel Brooks.
I can't remember any. I remember that when we lived in the same house in Yakima, that like you'd walk through the living room from the bathroom and you just stick your ass out and you'd go.
Oh, the exaggerated.
It was so obnoxious and so annoying. I hated it.
That was my exaggerated fart noise, but like everybody could see that I was doing it with my mouth, and I thought that made it funny. And it's no less funny than you assaulting me with your bare ass all the time as teenagers. And remember when you went through this phase? I don't think we've even ever talked about this. I think it was mainly in the time that we were hanging out with our friend Patrick at the same time. So I was probably early 20s, you late teenager, and you would show off and you would make me look like an asshole in front of all of our friends, mainly including you would just seriously like full out kick me in the balls. Do you remember that? Or punch me in the balls.
Well,
it happened like on 4 different occasions, all within the same week. And the last one, I think you could tell that I wouldn't talk to you anymore if it continued, because it wasn't pleasant. Have you ever been really walloped in the balls?
If it makes you feel any better, I'm obviously the one that looked like an asshole in front of all of our friends.
Not in the moment you didn't.
Was I
You're not the one
kicking you in the balls, or was I punching you in the balls?
I think you went both ways, because it happened quite a bit.
Yeah.
At least for that little sniff. Do you feel bad about it? It looks like you almost feel bad about it.
I'm embarrassed. I remember our cousin Amy, too, who's a girl. We used to do a thing where like we'd punch each other really hard in the arm. Like, you know, that thing. And then one time I was punching her. We were doing that, and I was hitting her like really hard, and it was in front of her, like her parents. And Uncle Russ was like, all right, enough of that. And I was like 20, and I was really embarrassed about that.
It's dumb to be scolded about roughhousing when you're 20, 21.
Well, I get more embarrassed thinking, like I
guess it happens with certain landlords.
Yeah, I didn't think about it much back then, but now I think back, and I'm like, oh, God.
Because 20's not that long ago.
Smoke a bowl, and then I just think about it for like 4 days.
I don't know about you, but 20 years old for me, definitely no pot involved. I didn't realize it was my savior.
I was probably around 20 when I started smoking pot. I think so. I remember the first time I smoked.
It was later for me. I was like 23, 24, I think.
Yeah. I was living in that house with a bunch of people that smoked pot.
I don't remember how it happened for me. Oh, yeah, storytelling. When we were dating, we almost broke up about the fact that I was so disgusted by her cigarette and pot smoking habit. And, like, if we'd make out or something and I could taste cigarettes, I'd be so fucking angry about it and would threaten to break up with her. And one time, like, she stormed out of the house and went to a party and then texted me to inform me that she was smoking pot, which I was going to break up with her over. And then I couldn't get her to come back, and I couldn't get her to come back, and I was totally devastated and ruined, and I didn't know how I was going to live anymore. And then, so I made a condition with her over text or over phone, I don't remember anymore, and I said that if she came back to the house, that I would forsake my own body and smoke marijuana with her.
So that's funny.
And she left the party for that. Like, she was so excited, and that was all it took. Yeah. Like, that was seriously the major issue at the time.
And then you guys had a good night? Did you
Not
enjoy
really.
it that first time?
I mean, everybody asks this question. It's kind of hackneyed.
Or were you, like, smoking it and just like, I'm so mad that you're making me do this.
No.
We're going to pray tonight.
No, at first I was, but then I was just relieved that I had won. And so we went to the park, of course. We sat in some bleachers. It was like midnight.
That is so storytelling.
And I think the problem was that she had some joints rolled, and I I still don't know how to smoke a joint. So when I say that, oh yeah, I didn't feel it the first time I smoked pot, it may have been because I didn't get anything out of it. But at the same time, like, I'd come around on the situation, and I was like, this could be cool. Do you want to go back to my house and watch Mr. Show? And then we did. And then I was totally into pot.
The funny thing is that you loved Mr. Show even before then.
I know.
I first smoked pot when I got a tooth extracted at the dentist, and
That'll do it.
I was afraid of the needle, so I asked him for the gas. So when he gave it to me, because I was really worried leading up to my dentist visit, and everyone's like, "Just get the gas, get the gas." And it's just like you're high, and I had never been high, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be that guy that has never smoked pot, who brags about that."
I never saw Titanic, so
Yeah. So I get the gas, and then I remember Will and Grace was playing on the screen above me.
I think you told this story on the Barry episode. I don't mean to embarrass you.
I think so too. But yeah, I was just like, wow, this is what getting high feels like. I'm going to get high.
Yeah.
And I did, and I felt it right away. It felt great.
So how many years before it turned on you the way it did?
That was just in the last year, so I guess
Since you've had a kid.
9
maybe.
years. Took
But-
9 years to go back.
So do you not enjoy it with me? I know you don't do it as much as I do.
No,
but
I absolutely can't smoke alone. I always smoke pot when I'm around you.
I know you do, but I can't tell if you're just doing it because I'm doing it and you don't want me to feel out of the loop.
Well, I wouldn't do that. I'm my own man. But I'd say that
Oh, right then.
I still have some freakouts when you're sitting right there, too. But it's probably pretty obvious, and I eventually come down from them. It's only really bad in my own head.
At least when we do it at your house, we have, like, cable to focus on.
Yeah, I think that's better, too, is to do it at my house, because then, like, we're not hiding in your room scared. Or at least I'm scared.
It's totally ridiculous. It's not warranted.
I feel much more comfortable in my own house when I can sleep in my own bed.
I
You're
feel-
more of a drifter. You can do the Yakima trip.
Yeah, I can do the couch surfing thing, literally sleeping on your couch. But you know what? It's okay now because you have Mario Kart.
Oh. That's true. And Mario Kart is a game that is really something else. I used to play at my
You're saying
friend-
that as if nobody's ever heard of it.
I'm just saying that.
Oh.
I used to play at my friend Ben's house.
Breaking news: Mario Kart is an awesome game.
Yeah. But on 64 it was so great, and I'd scream at the TV at his house, and I'd get so mad. And I remember doing that as a kid too with video games. And Dad used to always say, if it's going to affect your life that much, if it's going to make you this upset, then we're just not going to play anymore.
But weren't we just being loud and maybe competitive with one another?
I think back then we weren't screaming the F word, but we're like, God dang it!
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I've always screamed, it's not fair at a TV screen when I'm playing.
Scraping the Nintendo gun against the TV screen, making Dad mad for like 8 years.
And then I used to play again when I had a GameCube all the time, but I didn't have that GameCube for very long. I got it from Zach.
When I was living with Patrick, who I just mentioned, and then we'll go back to Mario Kart, because nobody would think it, but there's a story to be told there. I don't know what it is just yet, but we can find some gold. But when I was living with Patrick for that short time, his daughter Alyssa, who was maybe 11 at the time, there was some SpongeBob game, but it was basically Mario Kart except for with SpongeBob characters. And she would play it, and she would get so frustrated that she would like chuck the remote at the window and just hope for it to break. And she would like bust into tears. Like, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
She has an issue, and I hope she's in therapy now.
Did Pat abscond her for it?
Yes, of course. He said, you're
Did
being...
I say abscond right?
I'm not sure. But he basically said, yes, you're being retarded. Go sit in the closet type deal. Like, she was just being a psycho. That whole house was psychotic for a little while.
Now, did you wake up my daughter from a nap today when you were screaming at the Mario Kart? And how many minutes after that was it when I said you can't scream this time?
Okay, here's what happened. Is because I knew...
Luckily, we went to bed early last night. Were you yelling like, I'm going to rape your mother, douchebag motherfucker? Like, I didn't feel bad. The neighbors still had to hear it, but at least it wasn't like 11 o'clock at night.
It's not that loud, and I'm not that much louder than you. Here's how it starts, because Mario Kart I haven't played for a long time. I took the summer off. I was telling you before, I have to take certain games off for a little while because I get so obsessed and I don't want to play anything else. It's mainly Mario Kart and Scrabble, and now Beatles Rock Band.
Yeah, I get real sick of Scrabble, especially since playing with my
But I'm
wife.
the one that turned you onto it, at least as an adult.
But she will not. The only way she'll play is if she can look up the words before she spells them. Every single word. It's so annoying. She comes up with like the most
Well,
elaborate.
that's blatantly against the rules.
7-letter words that no one's ever heard of, but she just typed in the combination of words she had and it worked.
You guys got to get rid of that iPod app.
She will not play if it's not like that. So that's why I get really frustrated with Scrabble. Because I won't let myself look up the words like that.
I get frustrated because I never win.
At Scrabble?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. Like, I've got a feel for the game. I mean, I beat you in the beginning, but then you got way better than me.
Your strategy in Mario Kart is seriously lacking. Like
we weren't even talking about Mario Kart.
You don't look at. Well, I'm just saying that if you can't apply it to Mario Kart, how can you apply it to Scrabble?
You say this, and yet all the circuits we've played between last night and today, I'd say we broke even. I won just as often as you won. It's just that I'm louder about it.
That's true.
When I lose, and yeah. So
but
here's what.
Anytime like I'm dragging a shell and I block a shell that comes up, you're like, "How did you do that?" Or "How did you shoot the shell behind you?" You've been able to do that since like 1996.
I've never. This is another thing I was going to say is Mario Kart is new to me as of the Wii. I'd never played any other version of it.
Right, but the Wii version's all its own. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like you.
And I'm pretty good at it. That's all I'm saying.
All the other ones, yeah. We broke even, but my strategy is better. Plus, you have to remember, I've only had it for like 3 days. You played it for months on end.
True, but I gave it off for months too. And yeah, so I tend to get loud. Margaret doesn't seem to mind it when I play with her because she lives alone and we live in a sketchy part of Seattle anyway. I said we as in
yeah.
we have a sitcom that's also based on us, Margaret and Nick.
Yeah. I'm we in Mexican. She didn't like you screaming so loud at the cabin when we were playing Encore because that is maybe the first.
So I just have a tendency to yell no matter what the game.
And that is literally I think the first time in that cabin that I've ever seen that Nick screams to the top of his lungs and can't stop.
Encore, what?
Because they told you to stop so many times. You go, "I'm sorry that it's my birthday."
Oh yeah, so that story's been told too. Yeah, I forget how erratic I become. But last night it didn't matter as much because it was earlier on. But then yeah, today you went to your GED class, which we should also talk about. But when you came back from...
No, it's not a class. I didn't need to go there and bone up on the material. I'm just taking the test.
All right, I said we could talk about it in a little bit.
To the testing center.
But before you had left today, or in between the two classes, you came... not classes?
Yeah.
You came back home and you said you want to play some Mario Kart for a while. And we did, and apparently it's okay that I swear in front of your daughter.
I don't mind.
I can't help it with that game.
I really
and
don't.
It gets... And I know that you think I'm just doing it to make you laugh because it's the one thing I do
really
that makes you laugh the most. But I don't. I just get frustrated in the moment because here's the thing about fucking Mario Kart. Okay, I'm gonna put myself behind the wheel for a second and just vent. When you're in first place, like the computer chip within that's taught to do this really despises you for that, and then they dump 8 turtle shells on you in a row, and you're fucking screwed.
But see, this is where the defense comes in. Like, when you're in first place...
There's no strategy. I win just as often as you do.
And you've got a good lead.
And you're a great poker player, too, right, PJ?
You'll get, like, 3 red shells and just shoot them off in front of you, because who gives a fuck? You're in first place. You can leave them circling to protect you from
I
shit.
know.
Or if someone's behind you, you can shoot it backwards.
I object. I definitely don't do the thing. Only if you're ahead of me. Then I shoot all 3 at once, and I'm like, I'm going to knock that motherfucker out. Otherwise, I do leave it as protection. God, what about the listener that's never played Mario Kart? Or never listened to the show, worse.
Oh, man.
You want to play?
I was thinking that we
Take a
should
break.
record you play at one point.
Oh, I thought that earlier after you left again for the second
I feel
thing.
like it would be better. I should have just recorded you today with my phone without you knowing.
No, I had the same exact idea with you. But because you say some pretty crazy, hateful shit when things go wrong for you too. I'm not the only
Really?
one.
What do I say?
I think my voice is just louder. You say the same thing. You said something about fucking something in the ass that was not exactly human.
No, I said I had like a banana sticking out of my ass. I
No,
got a banana sticking out of my ass.
No, that's not what I'm thinking of, although that was your catchphrase this morning.
I get really vile, and we've talked about this before, but when I'm playing online poker, that's when I'm at my worst. But I get just as competitive with video games, too.
But are you yelling at the screen or you're just typing venomous shit?
No, I'm yelling at the screen.
And you're typing
And typing it, yeah. It's better. That's why I would like to get the internet hooked up to the Wii and play a little cross-country Mario Kart with some kids.
Oh man, I would love that shit.
I don't know if it. I don't think it works like the Xbox where you have a headphone thing.
I for one do not know how the Xbox works at all.
No, see that's the thing.
It intimidates me.
Like
the
we
Wii just seems so portable.
We get obsessed with like 9-year-old games.
Mario Kart is for everybody.
It's safe to say that neither of us are into video games.
I'd bet you anything if we pull Mario Kart out right now, it says all ages. It's for everybody. It's not just for kids.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody plays that. Everybody plays Rock Band, which you play. But other than that, neither of us are video game guys.
No, not at
all. We
were
a healthy amount when we were little kids.
Sure, but we played even weird old Nintendo games. Remember that game Deja Vu?
Deja Vu.
Have we talked about it before?
I don't know, but it would be interesting to see if we can beat that game. And I can't wait. When you look for the picture online, it's got to be that bald guy. Remember the bald guy, and he's sticking his finger up, and that's the one clue we could never get past?
Yeah, I think it had something to do with vials, too.
He was the butler.
Man, yeah, you're right. We're smart enough now to figure that damn game out.
This was
we just got to get a Nintendo that works.
Right. And how did it work? Like, they gave you clues, and then... Like,
it was like a very, very, very old-school version of a RPG game.
But aren't you? But when they ask you a question...
It's a choose-your-own-adventure book, basically.
But what did you do to proceed? Did you have to, like, type in the answer to a question?
No,
like,
I think it was multiple choice, probably.
No, because if it was multiple choice, we would have eventually gotten past that.
That's
part.
true. Yeah, I don't know. It was definitely more layered than that. And I remember feeling like I'm just not smart enough when we got to that one barrier we couldn't break. But we should go back to it. If anybody, we never ask for donations, but if somebody wants to donate an original Nintendo and a copy of Deja Vu,
yeah, one that works.
We'll make an episode out of it. We'll make 2 out of it.
I think Alvina's got like 2 at her parents' house or something like that.
Yeah, she doesn't talk to him though, does she?
That ain't happening. They probably don't work anyway.
She should get it through one of her sisters.
Not really talking to them.
Oh.
Actually, just one.
We don't need to talk about family.
Did you? Was there something to go back to about Mario Kart?
I doubt it. I yell a lot.
No.
You warned me after you came back from your second session today. As soon as you came in, you were like, if you want to play Mario Kart, it's cool, but we're going to lay Sophie down.
I didn't say it like that. Like, if you want to play, I guess I will. I was like, you want to play Mario Kart? One condition.
Oh, is that how you said it?
Just turn it down a little.
Like a secondary character from Porky's, he sounded like.
Yeah, so you screamed loud enough to wake her up at one point.
Oh, I actually did that, right?
Yeah.
I thought I dreamt that part.
But she went back to sleep. But then the funniest thing is, my landlord comes over to fix the sink, and you have no problem being quiet that whole time when the landlord is there.
Because I don't want to fuck up your living situation.
You'd even go
I can wake
like,
your daughter up from time to time. That doesn't bother me.
You'd go, fuck, and then go, dude, I'm sorry. And then, like, the song that you were playing was saying fuck over and over. Like, is that okay? And as I said, it's my landlord, but it's still my apartment. It's still where I live. We're allowed to curse in here. We can watch rated R movies.
I know, but then I hadn't even barely started smoking pot, and then it smelled like pot in here, and then
yeah, I did totally forget that he was coming. So
did I, even though I'd been warned about it.
But come on, he owns so many buildings in this neighborhood. You're telling me he doesn't
encounter pot from time to time?
The people that used to
live
live
downstairs, like the pot county of the world.
Oh yeah.
Aside from Humboldt.
Those people that used to live downstairs, remember, and they took us to go get pot, and we talked about it on the show?
Oh, yeah, that was a while back, but I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, he had to have smelled pot constantly when he went there, because they would smoke weed until like 5 in the morning and then go to sleep.
I just wonder what he thought about
toilet
us.
Tube filters.
Like, he shows up with his tool belt. That's not true. He had no tools.
Dude. Last time he was here...
And we're sitting there looking like fat twins, sitting and drinking beer and playing Mario Kart and trying not to yell at each other.
Last time he was here, he was working on the air conditioner. He was replacing the unit. And I was seriously spent the whole time in pajama pants, laying down on the couch, watching a Criminal Minds marathon, nodding off. Because I couldn't help it. There's nothing I can do.
Wait, nodding off? What time was it?
It was pretty early in the morning,
okay.
In fairness to me. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Was Sophie awake?
This is when he could come. Yeah, I think Sophie was awake. No, because then I would have had cartoons
So he's also
on.
watching you neglect your child.
No, then I would have had cartoons on.
Yeah, you should have her cartoons on at 8 in the morning.
I don't think she was there. This was some weird day when she wasn't there.
Sure it was. Continue.
But I was watching Criminal Minds and just falling asleep, and he would stop to ask me so many questions. Oh, no. I know what it is. He was in the bathroom. That's what it was. He was in the bathroom working on something. Sophie was gone, and I was falling asleep the whole time. And he kept coming out to ask me for stuff, and I'd be like, oh yeah, sorry, man. Like, it was so embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing.
So for us to be sitting there playing video games, at least we're awake this time.
That's true. Although I was barely awake.
I don't think it smelled like pot.
My performance would have been because I had just cleaned out the earlier shit. That's all it was.
I'm terrified every time I see him. He's going to talk about all the cigarette butts I leave right outside the hallway.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty gross. One time, another neighbor that
Why don't you just put an ashtray out there?
I know, I need one. That won't get stolen.
I have 8 extra. Oh, they get stolen?
I don't know. I've never even tried.
You should try it, or at least put a bottle out there or something, man.
Those get thrown away. I want one of those old, standing up ones. Tracy found one when he was at a
but you don't need that. The 8 ashtrays I have all came from Camel for free because I signed for a free pack of cigarettes once at a bar. Ashtrays are easy to come by. You can steal them. Well, you can't steal them from restaurants anymore. They're not there.
I want to get one of the ones that's like a tube where you just drop it in. That way,
those are awesome.
Any of my mess.
So
he never says shit anyway.
You won't own a free to $2 ashtray until you can own a $60 retro ashtray.
I'm just saying that. I'm sure if I put that out there, it wouldn't work. I'd love to have it out there. I'd love to. I have an ashtray meant for a weed pipe, and since I don't smoke pot, I should just use that.
Yes, you do. Why do you keep lying?
Only when you're here, buddy. We definitely don't use the debowler.
I don't even know how the thing works. It intimidates me.
It's real easy. You just turn it upside down over and
I feel like I'd see the beginning of a House episode where it punctures somebody's lung, and then he has to figure it out.
It's fucking sharp.
Been watching a lot of House lately.
You know what I wanted to mention is that
House? You want to talk about House for a little bit?
No, I don't want to watch it. Just fucking Rent the Wire.
I'm working on it. I got to get through House first.
My earbuds broke. I went through real bad luck with earbuds. The ones I originally had didn't work very well anymore.
Yeah, bad headphone luck, man. I get it all the time.
Yeah. And then the next pair I bought was way too short. The cord was 1.5 foot long. And then the next pair, they fell apart. So then I was just wearing the big fucking headphones, the one you're wearing right now.
Yeah, the ones that we always wear for the show.
Yeah. It is amazing the people who made fun of me for wearing those.
Really?
Especially at work.
Strangers? Oh, okay.
At work, I'd be right in the back in the break area, and everyone would be fucking making fun of these headphones.
Do they ask where your turntables are?
Even no, they're not that clever. I swear to God, they're not. Big enough headphones for you? Just stuff like that over and over from 20 people a night. Even my main boss made fun of me. But I did like it because when I used to
really drowns everybody out, right?
Right. When I used to have just the earbuds in, people would come talk to me, and I'd pretend not to hear them for the first 2 times. And I take it off, and then it's
I always do that.
What are you eating? They can see what I'm eating.
Nonsense questions.
What are you listening to? You talk. Ha ha ha. Seriously, the kind of shit I say to my car. But then the big headphones, that really drowned that out a lot. Either I could ignore them, pretending not to hear them for 3 times as long this time, or they would just give up much quicker. But yeah, I got made fun of all the time. So I go back to earbuds, and then something that's never happened to me before, no matter how big a city I'm living in, has been happening, where people walking on the sidewalk stroll up alongside me and start fucking talking to me. Talking to me about, hey, where you headed? Where do you work? Yeah, I'm going to this store.
Because they're crazy and wanting money?
No. Not crazy and wanting money, but
That's instantly what I thought when you said that.
Real white trash hicks in Yakima.
That just want a conversation?
Yeah, I'm walking past the Dream Girls Espresso.
I think it's disrespectful unless it's an emergency.
Yeah.
When you see somebody with headphones and you don't know them personally, don't fucking approach them.
If I had the big headphones, it would be much easier. But
then they just think you're a weirdo, though.
I'm walking past the Dream Girls Espresso, and this guy just jogs up from behind me, and he's like, "Oh man, can you believe that?" And I do the thing. I take the earbud out. What's that?
I hate that.
If I had
but
the
usually
big
for
headphones,
me, because I live in central part of Seattle, it's all just money and cigarettes.
Yeah. But this guy wants to talk. This guy's looking for a friend.
Weird.
And he's asking me, is there a sporting goods store on 5th and Yakima Avenue? I heard that.
Well, if he's asking for a direction.
But dude, we're on 1st and Yakima Avenue, And
he can figure it out.
And he walked the whole way with me because I was heading in the exact. That's how Yakima is. You never turn. You're just walking a straight line wherever you're going, or driving a straight line wherever you're going. So I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? There is one, and he's just fucking walking the whole time. And I would put the earbud back in, and then he'd say something else, and I go, what? Oh man, it's crazy how them girls like have their titties hanging out while they're making the shit. And if I had a car, I'd drive up there right now and buy an espresso. And I'm like, well, the fact that they're in bikinis means
the fact that you don't have a car.
Yeah. Like, the fact that they're in bikinis is the whole reason I don't go, because it's so awkward. But this is the guy who's like dirty leather jacket with an eagle on the back and flannel shirt and floppy hair, and guarantee he loves America. This is the guy, and doesn't he see like my hair's all parted to the side and long, hair sprayed down, I got my old man sweater on, like I'm just trying to look
dress like an old man,
as unapproachable as possible. Why does this guy want to be my friend now? And then I tell him I'm a bartender and forget about it. All they want to talk about is how they got fucked up and fucked some guy up, or
that's your bad for saying
fucked
that.
some girl up something, or like got kicked out. Oh man, I don't go to Boomers anymore. Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Hey, speaking of Boomers, have we ever talked about that time that we went to Boomers and you got super drunk? And I assume we were all super drunk, and this is way back in the day. Like, you were probably just old enough to drink, right?
Yeah.
If old enough to drink. I guess if we were both in the bar, you weren't stealing my ID.
Yeah, I would have had to be. I mainly did that for strip clubs.
But there was a lot of karaoke going on that night at Boomers, and it's like a total hick bar, right? Is that the best way to describe it?
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's still standing every time we drive by it when I'm in town.
There's lots of hicks around here.
Yeah. Like full-on dirt floor.
Plus, they got
maybe not quite.
They got Mark Addy and Jamie Gertz making special appearances every week.
So you remember that?
It's a still standing joke.
I got it just now. You remember that scene in, I think it was Borat, where Borat is in that bar and he goes up to sing that song about throw the Jew down the well, and everybody got really involved?
Yeah.
It seems like that exact type of bar to me.
Yeah.
And in fact, the story is very similar. And this is pre-Borat. You beat Borat to the punch. Yeah. And so you went up to sing a song for karaoke to make whoever was at the table. Do you have any idea? A previous guest of the show?
Pat Williams?
Was Nick O there?
No. Maybe. I think Pat was there from Tacoma, your old friend Pat.
Sure. We've mentioned him like twice already. So, although we called him Patrick.
Yeah, I think this is when he would come to Yakima a lot.
That's true. So, yeah, I think it was mainly to make me and Patrick and possibly Nico laugh. And you got up on stage, and then I don't know what song you'd requested, but you changed...
Sweet Caroline.
Oh. Wait, do I remember the story wrong then?
I
thought that you went up there and winged something about your dog dying.
No.
Is that I was there.
Yeah, I picked Sweet Caroline, and there had just
Which
been
is the only song you can pick for karaoke.
Right. There had either been a Toby Keith concert in town, or somebody was wearing a Toby Keith concert T-shirt.
I'm guessing both.
Yeah, I'm guessing both too. But I think he had been in town, because I wouldn't be picking on just one guy. But I went up there, and I said, this one is dedicated to Elvis. That's my dog's name. He just died. And then I sang Sweet Caroline, but every chorus was Sweet Toby Keith. And people loved it, man. No one got mad at me as far as I could
because
tell.
they didn't get it, BJ.
They thought it was so... They're like, Toby Keith.
That is hilarious.
They felt bad for me and my dog
Elvis. You were
Elvis.
so much funnier back then.
Dude, I don't know what it was about me back then. Although the other day, hanging out with my friends at a bar, I completely soaked my shirt and my entire head with water and came back to sit down. I thought that was pretty funny.
So you forgot to say intentionally, right?
Guess who else thought
As
that
a
was
joke.
funny? You thought that was funny the next day when I told you. No one there thought that was funny.
I don't see what's not funny about it. Like, what could have happened?
Yeah. Even some girl was like, oh, you're just doing it for attention.
Somebody at the table said that?
Yeah.
Or they tweeted it later?
No. That's the other thing. No one's on Twitter. Follow Myopic Andy. By the way, if anyone wants to do one little favor, follow Myopic Andy on Twitter.
Who's that?
That's Andy.
Oh, Andy, the guy that will never come on the show?
Yeah.
God, I love Andy.
He's got
not
some
Andy Greeley, who has been on the show.
things to say.
I know, and I want to hear them all on
Yeah.
microphone, though.
Follow him.
And he's like the biggest film nerd I know,
Yeah.
but in the most flattering type way.
but also kind of snobby.
Yeah, but I kind of admire that about him. And aren't we snobby too?
Aren't you glad that you've seen Back to the Future and Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous that he wouldn't put that. What about Star Wars? Has he ever seen that?
No, nothing like that. I don't think he was
no subtitles, no go? Is that his motto?
I think he never watched movies as a kid, and then when he grew up, he just watched good filmmakers.
Boring.
Anything over 1960 need not apply.
Although I will say, not our most recent episode, but the Smitten with Smits episode, our fall TV movie preview, people did not respond well to that. I don't know if we just didn't offer interesting opinions, or if people just want to hear us talk about Mom and what an awful mother she was.
I felt like I did not offer interesting opinions. I feel yours were as good as always.
Maybe your Dexter impression was a lot better than mine.
The Jimmy Smits character?
Yeah.
Maybe let's not do that again.
No, I think they're asking for it.
Although now...
They hate it so much. How about round 2, suckers?
John Lithgow's on it now. I can do my impression, which is just what I used to do. Pull down my pants everywhere I go.
So I hear. I haven't seen it yet. So should we just ditch the part in our iPod or our iTunes description that says that we'll talk about TV and movies? Because people are totally opposed.
Well, we wrote that.
I'm really angry at the listener for the first time since we started the show.
We wrote that iTunes
their bad,
description, by which I mean I wrote that iTunes description. Basically, like an hour after you said, "Hey, let's have a podcast," and I was
That's
like,
true.
"Here's our tagline." Like, I'm not thinking about content or what we should do or anything like that.
Well, we didn't know what the show was. We hadn't even bought equipment
and
yet.
Maybe I wrote that going like, "Oh, this is also a pitch to us. Like, this is what it can be about." But then we start talking, and all we can think of is how we
really
used to
had
hate
no
each
idea.
other.
Isn't it awesome that we still have no idea?
Yeah, that's true.
But I kind of like it that way. Nobody knows what to expect, PJ. So, TV and movies, let's go.
Yeah. We really did used to hate each other growing up. And I can't believe that we don't talk about that as much as...
We mention it a lot. Is there any specific... Yeah, I broke your fucking hang glider or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, I think we're too afraid to really bring out the deep issues.
I don't know what deep issues... I block a lot of things. You know this about me.
Yeah, me too. I choose not to remember a lot of things, too.
But you... Are you looking at your phone as if you've got a file ready about how I ruined your how I ruined you?
No, I really don't remember anything either. I remember how mad you used to make me, but I realize now it was over petty stuff. Just being a big brother.
It was all petty.
Like when I would fucking defend you to neighborhood bullies, and then they would hit me in the head with a pipe.
You just tell the same one story over and over again.
You wouldn't even tell Dad. You couldn't even do that. What is the motivation behind that?
I don't know. I feel like
when I get beat over the head with a blunt object, and then for you to walk away...
You make it sound so much... How many stitches, PJ?
I'm just saying. To just walk away home and then see Dad sitting there and not tell him there are 7 guys...
You weren't there to see me not tell him.
Because I came home. I came home and Dad's still sitting there.
Well,
no, I definitely...
Can you not see that?
Obviously, I went upstairs and was like, "Did you even tell Dad?" And you're like, "No, man, you're the faggot. You deserve a hate crime." There's like 7 kids on BMXs surrounding me.
Yeah,
you don't even tell Dad.
I'm sure I told Dad, and
if
he didn't
it
give
was
a shit.
my penis that got cut off in the woods down the road, and you were burying your dead cat, and you saw me, would you even tell anybody? Or would you be that weird kid in movies that just like lets it happen and then later becomes a sexual sadistic serial killer?
Well, I got part of that, right?
Really, Jim Gaffigan?
I know. I totally was
the best impression you've ever done.
Brotherhood. It's a cereal now.
I want to run something by you.
I nodded. What?
I think that we should devote a new segment to the show, which is something adorable that your daughter does in the time that I babysit her. No?
You have an example?
You're not. I have a great example.
Okay, what?
It's not funny. It's just cute. I want to warn people ahead of time, but it's really cute. I already told you. This is old news. I bought her Where the Wild Things Are, which is apparently the best book in the world, and I know so because she apparently knows the book as much by heart as a 2-year-old that can't really talk that well can know a book.
Yeah.
And the reason I knew
She's only had it since her birthday.
Yeah, which is what, 2 weeks ago? 3?
Something like that.
I wasn't even saying that as a joke.
Oh, yeah. I guess you're right. It was like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I knew because your daughter is now potty trained, and I was babysitting her today, so you guys warned me that I would know when she had to go because she would say, pee pee, I have to go pee pee, or poo poo.
Yeah.
But she usually just says pee pee, right?
Yeah, she says I need pee-pee or I need poo-poo.
Yeah. So she told me pee-pee like 3 times. And so I would put the thing on, and I would sit her on there, and then I wasn't sure if she wanted her privacy, so I'd ask her. And 2 of the times she said stay here, and 1 of the times she said she would come and get me.
Yeah.
Or call for me. But yeah, so the
you
second...
had the toilet seat on backwards the whole time.
Just the first time. After you told me, I fixed it.
Well, it was the first time I was gone for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So that could have been like 3 pee-pee sessions.
No, only 1 of them had happened then.
Okay.
The 2 others came in quick succession.
Okay.
So she sat there the second time, not peeing, by the way. None of these times did she actually pee.
Yeah.
I think she's confused or she's just starved for attention.
She had a little trouble peeing today.
Yeah.
A little trouble with the pee-pee.
It was weird because we were going to put her down for a nap, or you were, so that we could play some Mario Kart. And I could try not to wake her up, which I eventually did. But yeah, when you laid her down and you put the baby monitor on, she was saying, Daddy, pee-pee, gotta go pee-pee. And then so you go in there and get her, and like 2 different times she sat there and she didn't go. And I thought she was just being a butthead and using that as an excuse not to go to sleep. But then the last time around she succeeded, right?
Yeah.
And after that she did go to sleep for a couple of hours.
Is that the cutest thing she did was pee and then take a nap?
No, Back to Where the Wild Things Are, this book.
Okay.
She I'm flattered that she apparently knows it so well, because the second time she was sitting down there on the toilet, she wanted me to stay.
Because you wrote it?
Yes. Were you not aware?
Because you bought it for him? Well, it is true that the last...
I'm just flattered that...
maybe not the last thing you bought.
It's a book that impressed her and you as a child.
Yeah.
And she responds to it so well already.
Yeah.
And now the movie, which I haven't seen, is apparently fucking adorable.
Not necessarily to bring your kids to, though, guys.
No, I know.
Not necessarily.
Only 27% of people have. But she was sitting there on the toilet the second time around, holding a magazine, which cracked me up. I almost took a picture, and then I was like, uh-oh, creepy uncle? I'm not quite sure. It would have been a classy shot, of course. I just thought it was funny. But she was holding an Entertainment Weekly, and it actually had still shots because they had an article about Where the Wild Things Are, the movie. And she recognized the characters just even from the from those photos. She said Max and Wild Things.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit, bring the book out. I'll read it to you. Yeah. And I heard you reading it to her last night. I pretend like I didn't. I'm very flattered by the whole thing.
I spoke up a little so that you could hear me being a father.
I really was impressed.
They roared their terrible roars. I really never put that much emotion into it. I'm just trying to get through it. But unpause the Amazing Race.
So she wants me to read the book to her. She brings it to me. Well, I asked her to bring it to me. But I sit on her lap, or she sits... I sat on her lap today. And she read it to me.
Creepy uncle?
But so I read it to her once, but she was kind of paying attention to Arthur, which was going on at the same time, because I was trying to get her to go to fucking sleep. And then she asked me to read it to her again, so I did, and put more inflection in it the second time around. And then she was watching Arthur for a little bit, and then she picked up the book, and by herself, but starting it from the end, she flipped to the middle and said, and grew... and grew and grew, which happens pretty much right in the middle of the book, when the forest is growing in his room. And then she flips to the end and says, still hot, because his dinner was still hot after.
That's right.
Yeah. And I thought that was very clever of her.
Yeah.
Those are the days that I really appreciate her as a niece, even though for most of the day I had started the dumb thing about dancing to music, and she really did not want to stop. And I thought she would be so exhausted by a couple of songs, but she wasn't. And she kept wanting me to go with it.
Yeah, but that's still good for a kid. Exercise just gets so tiring to the adult.
Yeah, except for some of the music that came up was inappropriate. You said it didn't matter, so.
Did she say if she thinks that Max Records is going to do a good job?
She thinks he's going to get an
Oscar. I
Oscar
saw him on
now.
Conan. He's precocious.
Is he really?
I didn't really see him on Conan. I saw that he was.
But you read that he was precocious?
I saw that he was on Conan, and I'm imagining he was precocious.
Yeah. Is his debut?
I think so, yeah.
It worked out for Anna Klumsky. Why not him?
I heard there's a line in it where he tells his mom, "Get me food, woman."
Well, I like that.
I really wish that was in the book. "Get me food, woman."
Well, there's a line almost equivalent to that in the book. What is it? He says something about...
He says, "I'll eat you up." And so he was sent to bed without having anything to eat.
Right. Okay, you know that pretty well, too.
Yeah, but then an ocean grew in his room. That's probably wrong. Did I ever tell about when Grandpa Bob did buy me that book, the time he bought it? Because remember, he bought us... Do you remember what book he bought you?
I think I do. If it was the same year, then it was... And the only book that really made an impact on me... And Grandpa was a books guy, like full-out library in his house.
Yeah.
Like, he was a knowledged man.
Boy,
as
I
far
wish
as
he
that
died now. I'd try to get my hand on some of those books.
I know, man. eBay, right?
Yeah.
Um,
or read them.
read them and then
Read
eBay.
them, then eBay. But then I don't have the trophy on my shelf.
Yeah, that's true. I believe the book that he bought for me the same year, alongside Cush Balls, which came with the books.
Yeah.
And this was at some weird hotel. You have this exact same memory, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to. That it was at the Sherwood Inn and also came with Cush Balls.
Yeah. Well, sorry to spoil it for you. Grimm's Fairy Tales.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah.
And I've looked for it since because I think that was something that got abandoned alongside the house. Is that where the Wild Things Are went for you?
I imagine.
Yeah. Do you remember that Grandpa put a little autograph for both of us? In the beginning of both of our books, it says it's seriously this bland. For my book, Grimm's Fairy Tales, to Nick from Grandpa.
Yeah.
In your book, Where the Wild Things Are, to PJ. From Grandpa, or possibly Patrick. He may have gone Patrick on that. I love that it's not even love Grandpa.
Yeah.
Just from.
Well,
it's like I went to a book reading and then was really excited that he took 2 minutes of my time.
he's a guy who I also...
I guess the Cush Ball is personality enough, though.
Even though he was so close to dead the whole time we knew him, I do wish he was still alive now, because now is when I actually think he would be interesting.
Oh, definitely.
But it was so boring.
But if he were still alive now,
and...
he would have dementia or something.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, is he was pretty far out there.
I don't know that he was.
I remember one time
I don't think people gave him enough credit.
We were at the Puyallup Fair, and he got separated. Remember, Mom and Denise were both there, and he got separated from us, and Dad flipped the fuck out.
No, I don't remember this.
Dad was like screaming at Mom for losing Grandpa. But the whole story that I wanted to get to was that along with those books came the Koosh Balls, and maybe the one Grandpa type thing I can ever remember him doing, and this is why it was from Grandpa, not love Grandpa, was he's like, PJ, and I turn around and he's like, here, and he's like, he's got the Koosh Ball, and he's like...
And he's 72 years old.
Yeah, and he's like bouncing his hand up and down like, I'm going to throw it, I'm going to throw it, I'm going to throw it, and then he throws it, and I watch it as it bounces off of my chest and hits the ground. I thought he was throwing some sort of weird animal at me. Like, at least I didn't scream and turn around, but I watched it bounce off me, and I was 17 years old. Now, how old could we have been then?
What if you were?
7. I was probably
I thought when you said that, I wasn't sure it was a joke because I was still laughing. I was like, no, that's not right.
But he did, and like that's my one Grandpa. Oh, and also once when we were visiting them, probably in Ashland, and I was looking around in his library, and I came outside and I asked him, and we were leaving like the next day, and I was like, oh, hey, do you have any mystery books? And I was like angling towards him giving me a book. And he totally...
And you went with mystery, huh?
He totally picked that up. Like, well, that's what I wanted if he was going to give me a book. I think, like, I had seen a book I liked
you meant
there.
like, you meant to say Encyclopedia Brown, though?
No.
Specifically.
I think I was in there and I picked up a book, like an Ellery Queen thing. And then I was like, oh, I want him to give this to me. So then I go outside, and I'm like, do you have any mystery books? And he goes, nothing that you can read before you leave. And I was like, oh. Like, I was so embarrassed and sad.
Yeah, that's...
Just like the Koosh Ball. And
Shut down. Grandpa, for as much as he loved books, I do remember him recommending Jurassic Park written by Michael Crichton to me once.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Is that when you read it?
About that same time. He didn't give it to me to read, but he suggested that I do.
Interesting.
And I'd love to say that it was before the movie came out, but I'm probably not that cool. Because what would I have been, 12?
Yeah.
The movie came out at 93?
Yeah.
Yeah. I read some books. I remember one time Grandma Fran, the other end of the spectrum, although they were divorced long before we ever knew them.
Yeah.
But we were like on some trip. I think we were camping, but there was some kind of corner store nearby. And Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade had just come out, and we fucking loved it. We had seen it with Dad. And at the bookstore, there was one of those terrible novelizations of a movie that had just come out of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
We have an uncle who likes to read those. Specifically about Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, my God. Seriously?
Well, I will say this. I love
You won't
Barry.
say his name, I was going to say, but okay.
I love Barry.
Yeah.
B,
do you love episodes 59 and 60?
yeah.
Okay.
B, our tastes in books are not the same. C, he told me how great the novelization of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is. And D, when I met up with him at a bar a couple weeks ago to see some live music by Aaron Daniel.
One man band,
Aaron-
Banned.
I can't believe I put the S at the end of that. Aaron Daniel.
Right.
He was reading some Star Wars fan fiction during the opening acts.
What do you mean by fan fiction? Not full out fan fiction, like printed out blog pages.
No. Like, isn't fan fiction like those short story books?
Maybe I confused the meaning, but I assumed it was just like when somebody's really obsessed with the X-Files, even though it's been canceled for 10 years. And so they write continuation stories themselves. And
Yeah,
put
that's
them
what
on...
this is. Just like those books.
Yeah, but
have
those are
books.
authorized by Lucas.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, that's the main difference.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. But it's still written by someone who had nothing to do with Star Wars ever. But yeah, he told me the plot. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember one word of it.
I don't remember the one word of episodes 1 through 3, by the way.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna. So yeah, there was a novelization of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I have no money. I'm like 9, probably.
I think I remember this.
I think
too.
it was exactly 9.
I remember specifically the corner store.
Yeah, and so Grandma asked me if I know how to read, and I say yes, and she says, "Oh, not in these many words," because she was carrying a jug of wine with her at the time. But she asked me what reading level I was at, basically. Like, pick out a book of your choice. And I went with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade because I love the movie so much. But then I remember we get back to the campsite. Some campground with a corner store 10 blocks away. And then, I sat there and she was basically, at least I felt this the way at the time, that she was making sure I was reading it.
Really?
And I got nothing out of it. Like, all the words seemed way too huge for me.
But she just wanted. I remember that was kind of a thick book.
Yeah.
I remember
Thick
once
for my standards anyway. What had I read up until that point?
Once
It wasn't until 2 years later, probably 14, I read, also on a camping trip, is when I got into Stephen King. I was
Eyes
14.
of the Dragon.
No.
Oh,
That was
sorry.
the first I ever read. No, it wasn't.
I read-
I always say that's the first I ever read, but really it was Nightmares and Dreamscapes on a camping trip.
Oh yeah.
I read Dolan's Cadillac, the very first story in that book, and fucking was sucked in.
I read Eyes of the Dragon for a book report in 8th grade, so I guess I was like 14.
I read it in 8th grade too, so I was like 14.
Once from a book report. Remember book reports for book orders
Scholastic and such?
where you order books.
Right.
And occasionally we'd be able to buy something, Calvin and Hobbes book or something like that.
That's usually what I got.
And I got
Because we were, that was elementary school.
Yeah.
We were cool enough for Calvin and Hobbes even in elementary school.
You were. I got the Home Alone novelization.
So did I.
And
We
that
fought
was-
for it.
Really?
Yeah, we both made Mom and Dad pay separately so we could have the same edition of the same book. And we're barely not sharing the same room anymore.
And it was like 20 pages long with like 10 words on each page. I remember there being some extra shit that wasn't in the movie in there, which I didn't understand.
Me neither. I was just confused.
Right. I thought it was more like a
I thought I
script
could
at that
read
point.
along with it when the movie was on.
Yeah.
We were really obsessed with that movie. But yeah, Calvin and Hobbes, at least for me, I remember being in the 5th grade. My teacher was Mr. Horn. Remember him?
Yeah.
You never had him.
No.
I think he was only there that 1 year, or maybe one after that. But he was pretty cool. I liked him. And you remember those days in elementary school? And this was fucking awesome.
Field day?
No, I hated field day. I think you're alluding to an episode that hasn't come out yet.
Yeah, that's true.
we would have, I don't know if this is what it was called, but it was as generic as reading day, and it was a day where rather than the regular
Was it reading
curriculum-
day or was it bear day? Bear, be enthusiastic about reading.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
You remember that at Fernhill?
Well, that's what it was, but I don't remember it having a name.
Yeah.
So the whole day, the class is intended to be completely silent. Basically, it's a day for the teacher to catch up on whatever bullshit. And so the kids still come to school, but you bring books of your choice. They didn't seem to have many regulations, and you would just sit and read all day.
Yeah.
And so me, the only thing I could grasp my mind to, not any like even 5th grade edition novels. That made no sense. But I'd already read Tales from the 4th grade Nothing, so I just brought in some Calvin and Hobbes because I think Barry turned me on to it probably. He turned me on to some other things too. I'll tell you about it later. But I remember it being about halfway through the day, and I had like 4 books thick of Calvin and Hobbes. And Mr. Horn, after the lunch break, and you eat lunch at your desk that day too, so you feel really important and like a businessman.
Really nobody wants to work that day.
No. But I remember Mr. Horn coming around after lunch and coming up to me and saying, "Hey, did you finish Homicidal Psycho Jungle Cat?"
No way.
Yeah. And I said, yeah. And he says, "Can I borrow that?" And then I was the only kid in the whole class whose book he borrowed that day. And then he read it until the end of class.
Oh, it's adorable.
Not very funny, though, huh?
In 8th grade, in Mrs. Luna's English class, we used to do, Joey Lawrence's sister. We used to do
Dumb.
book reports, and I think that there was 4 required throughout the year you had to do, and then you could do 4 extra credit.
Uh-huh.
And so and there were rules, and really simple rules. It was like, had to be 100 pages long. No matter what, there can't be a movie based on it.
Right.
And the other one was that you gave it to her sitting up at her desk.
But not in front of the class.
Not in front of the class, like in front of the class, but you're not giving it to the class.
No, it's not something anybody's hearing unless they're sitting in the first
She just calls you
rows.
up and you talk to her, and she would always like flip the book open to a random point. I think we've talked about this with Hatchet before.
We have, but we haven't gotten this specific. Go ahead.
So she would just ask you kind of a random question about what happens in the middle of it. And I remember that the book I got for the first one was probably 101 pages. And it was like, it also had to be at a certain reading level. We were in 8th. It had to be like at least at a 7th grade read. I don't know. But this book was like a kindergartner's book. It was all about like
Pop up.
this guy who just got his driver's license, and he was driving around, and he found a cool campsite, and he had some friends, and he had I don't know. Turns out they played some game, and there were aliens. I remember that. And she opened up, and she's like, "How did they get to their secret cabin on the lake?" And I said, "They surfed there." And she's like, "Very good," like, because that's what happened. So then the next one comes. I read something from the same author.
This guy's really making a stamp.
And it's another teenager who probably just got his license, and he could clone himself. And insert multiplicity joke here. Michael Keaton was the star of this book. And there would be like each clone would have like a bigger and bigger triangle birthmark on their hand. I remember that. So this guy, like when he's pretending to be like, and each clone would be more evil than the last. So the original guy is trying to pretend to be the new big boss, and he paints a big thing with hot cocoa on his hand. Anyway, so then the third time comes around, and I read Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King, and I fucking ate it up. And then I did all the extra credit book reports, everything Stephen King. I did like, I don't know, what wasn't based on a movie, anything I could find by Stephen King. In fact, I think that's probably how I read like the first 3 Dark Tower series. Was I did those as book reports.
I didn't read those till years
J.J.
later.
Abrams wasn't even alive back then. You hear he's developing that movie?
Which?
The Dark Tower?
Oh, I didn't know it was going to be a movie. Oh,
Yeah,
I guess I
J.J.
heard
Abrams
something.
is-
Well, if anybody's going to do it, why not, right?
Well, I mean, is he going to do it? He's like, yeah, after I do 4 other things,
Yeah.
I'm going to get to this.
I'll wait. Why not? I haven't even read the last 3 in the series yet.
Yeah.
Going back to Miss Luna and her terrible, terrible book report. structure. I never liked it. Not that I liked standing in front of the class to do anything either, but just like it's kind of an intimate thing, except for people are probably still hearing you, especially when she's calling you out on shit. And I'm sure I've told this story too, but you mentioned Hatchet earlier. The sequel to The Hatchet, The River, I never bothered to read. But that was the book that I decided to try and pass off on Mrs. Luna as having read, even though she was pretty quick to pick up on those things. But yeah, she did the same thing that you were saying, where she leafed through to a certain page. Obviously, she's not going to take the time to read whatever the fuck. But yeah, she flips to a certain page, and I just totally beef it. Like the second she asked me a question, like I'm spitballing something and it doesn't even come close. And so she shuts it down, and everybody in class knows what happened, even though they're not hearing it necessarily. Because I was up there less than 2 minutes, and then she called me back to my desk, and I felt like a jackass after that. But I think it was the next book for me the next time around, so I wouldn't fuck it up, because I never bothered to go back to the river and try and read it. Hatchet's too perfect in itself. But I think the next book that I did end up acing it on was Eyes of the Dragon. And then it went the same way. Like, I just went Stephen King after that.
Yeah.
And made sure that Annie Bates wasn't already in a movie about it.
I'm amazed she let me do it 2 years later, but she probably didn't remember you by then.
Yeah, she did. We look exactly the same. It was only 2 years.
Plus, like, we had uncles and stuff that had her as teachers. Mm-hmm. Uncle Tracy.
Yeah, she goes way back.
In
fact, always... Uncle Barry had my kindergarten teacher, or so he claims.
Oh,
Mrs. Loring, yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If I was the type of person that can be a teacher, because as far as I know, like,
you're basically qualified.
Even me, without having a diploma, like, I could probably be a teacher in 6 months. That seems to be how easy it is, because I know a lot of people who can't fucking spell who are teachers.
Yeah.
It's like just a fallback job.
Well, if they're not teaching spelling.
But I would like to do like 8th or 9th grade English, and I think I would just push the Eyes of the Dragon on every single kid that came through. I'm sure.
Have you read it since then, though?
I have read it more than once, but
why hasn't that been made into a movie? That could be Lord of the Rings epic, man.
Man, get J.J. Abrams on it, man. Get Flag going.
Do you have his email?
Make another stand.
Yeah, no kidding, man.
I'll email him to tell him how much I like this idea.
And this introduced me to Flag long before I'd ever read The Stand, because that was daunting for a while.
Yeah.
But once I read it, I've read it twice.
I've read it once, and I love myself for it.
You devoured it. I think Lonesome Dove may be the only longer book I've ever read.
How long is that?
I don't know. We'd have to put them back to back.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the show notes, guys. Assuming we're keeping any of this bullshit in.
I keep dancing around my GED thing, if you want to talk about it.
I guess. I'm out of beer, but go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm working on my GED. I'm going to be...
How's that going?
A high school graduate. Let's quit talking about it. All I can think about is like what Facebook status I'm going to write when I actually do graduate. Or not graduate, come on. But do get my diploma.
Maybe there's an application on Facebook where you can throw your hat up in the air.
Hang on, I got something. My good enough diploma.
Didn't mean to undercut your joke with my better joke.
I'm just trying to think of like a funny joke to put on it. But yeah, I think I'm doing okay. I had a writing test today, but there's an essay in it. I already told you all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm a little worried about the essay portion because I capitalize everything when I write.
Me too.
I'm a total caps lock writer.
I haven't written in cursive since I've had to.
Yeah.
And then I just ditched it's all caps for me.
I even do it on the computer, like on Twitter. And people would be like, "Why are you yelling?"
I think that strikes certain people as feminine.
What do? Oh, and in print?
In print, yes. Not on Twitter, because then it's like I'm yelling.
I hope not.
For the
this
sake
test
of laughter.
giver was kind of hot.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I hope I did that well enough.
I've been doing it probably since 17. It's just turned out to be an easier way to write, and nobody was really judging me. And I've been told I have very nice handwriting. It just happens that I write.
People do like my handwriting, although I don't think it necessarily has to be good. It's just different and nice enough looking that people. It's not like block letters. And I feel that even though I write in caps, when I am capitalizing something, that's still prominent. It's much taller than everything else.
Yeah.
I'm the long swooper, especially on my P's.
What about your signature? How does that go?
I've never really liked my signature, and it's changed
Me neither.
a lot.
Mine hasn't changed in a while,
But I do
not
the
because
P,
it makes sense.
I do the P, then the A for allers,
right?
and then I fill in the blanks.
That's basically what I do, except for I do the N, and then I kind of compensate for the SEK, but not really. And then it moves to the A, and then it's just a scribble at the end. But it's always the same scribble now.
If you look close enough, you will see every letter of my name in most of my signatures.
Man, that cannot be said for me.
I fit it all in there. But then...
So you're going to fail this grammar test because you wrote all in caps.
I feel like I aced all the questions.
Of course you did. That's going to be the easiest of all the classes you end up taking.
So even if the essay doesn't fly, hopefully that'll still be enough to where I don't have to retake it. So then I go in for science in the second part. And, like, there was a lot more people there because the first one I took was at 8:30 and this one was at 1.
Any hotties? Were they all way older than you?
Pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of them wearing Conoco gas station shirts. How long is this going to take? I'm on my break. And they all seem worried about how long it's going to take. I'm kind of worried about that because you're here watching Sophie. It's almost her nap time. Yeah. I still got to get beer on the way home. I'm thinking about we got to do a podcast. And I'm thinking about how nervous I am, like, for the science portion of this thing. But then these other people are on their lunch break. But that doesn't stop people from fucking... And then the lady's, like, 20 minutes late getting us started. And then these people, they just ask, like, people just love the opportunity to raise their hand and ask a fucking question and drag it out even longer. And there's this kid in front. So she's like, okay, those of you taking the math test... You can use the calculator for the first part, but not for the second part. Raise your hand when you're done for the first part. I'll come along, take it, and give you your second part. Someone's raising their hand. How come we can't use it for the second part if we can use it for the first part? That doesn't make much sense. It's like, first of all, I'm not going to get into how it could make sense or whatever like that. Just shut the fuck up. Do you think that you are going to change this rule right now, or are you just going to make this go on longer? And she gives some generic response. And then she's like, make sure all your cell phones are turned off and they can't be on you guys. Bring them to the front of the room. Meanwhile, mine's turned off. It's in my pocket. I'm fine. You know what I mean? But then some old lady in the Conoco shirt raises her hand. Why does it have to be in the front of the room if it's turned off anyway? It's not going to vibrate anyway. Just shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? And then this kid in the front... He's making jokes the whole time.
Oh.
And he's
older or younger than you?
Probably about my age.
Okay.
Carhartt pants, eyebrow ring, Carhartt hat, Carhartt jacket.
I love it.
Talking about his rig. If he was doing the science test, then he was in heaven because they really made it a lot about, like, a mechanic sees this under a hood. But if it was like Mario needs to pass Delfino Square. But so she's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be just a couple minutes, guys. And he like, oh, yeah, take your time. No hurry here. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh, so that's a joke to him.
So that's a joke. Like, oh, I'm so nervous, you know. And then she's like, it was a different lady the second time. And she goes, oh, you know, sorry about that. There was someone else here this morning. We all do things differently. She had to go home sick. And then he's like, hey, could I go home sick? And she looks at him and she goes, I know you're joking, but yes, if you're sick, you can go home and reschedule your test. I fucking fell in love with her. It was so funny. Like, because if I have to deal with that just as an employee or a test taker,
sure,
you know these test givers got to put up with that shit all the time.
It's got to be a terrible job.
Oh, man, it was so funny. And then when I handed her my test, she goes, thank you, Patrick, which means she remembered my name from giving her the ID. There's like 17 of us in the class.
It wasn't on the test that you handed to her?
She didn't look at it, though. Like
maybe she did.
She remembered who I was.
Was she wearing sunglasses?
No, she remembered who I was. But yeah, that's it. By the 27th, whether or not this be up before then, I should have...
Do you have any classes left? I keep saying classes, but it's like a test, basically, right?
Yeah, a test, but I'm doing them all within the next couple days.
I know, but what do you have left? What haven't you tackled yet?
I have Thursday reading, and then on
That's a piece of cake, right?
Oh, yeah.
We know how to do that.
Yeah, it can't be any harder, can't be any easier than that writing test.
Unless you fucked it up with the caps.
Well, still, they're going to see my great article.
What if that's... What prevented you from getting a high school diploma is, whoops, I wasn't thinking about it for a second.
I would have to retake it. But the thing is, like, I know that there's not one question I got wrong on the test.
Right.
So that should more
Wait,
than...
did you mention the essay? that you took for that portion of the
No.
test? So it's just random. You said different students got different things, right?
Right, different questions that popped up. Mine was something, what is good about television?
Right, which what should be like fucking cha-ching, man.
Yeah, I
the only
know.
better thing could have been what's the influence movies have had on you.
But I was trying to, even though I swear I had like an hour and a half left, but I was just like, oh, I want to finish. I kind of had to go to the bathroom. And I didn't want to get too cute with my thing. Like, oh, I love Lost or something like that.
See that?
Or why
that's
I love
immediately
Big Brother.
where my mind went to, though. It
I
was
know.
like- and I know that's nerdy, but at least it would. I think that I would try and incorporate humor in it too. Or do you think that was a bad idea?
I still picked a passion of mine.
Which is what?
Politics. That is seriously what I picked. I wrote the most
Who are you
ignorant,
trying to impress?
uneducated thing ever about there was a time when it would take people months to figure out what was going on with their country. And I'm just trying to put words in there that I'm sure most people misspell so I can spell it right. And I'm like, as citizens of America, we're able to be more kept up to date with issues. But like I figure like it seriously was a case of like I looked around at the people there and I'm like, how smart can they look with what they're writing? And that's how fucking asshole I am. I was like, all I have to do is spell everything right and put commas in the right
Yeah,
places.
but there are instant better ideas that could have come to your head in that same time.
But that's not what it's
And you
about.
said you had time left.
There
you had
is-
time to sit and...
But there's
I'm sure it was well written.
originality has nothing to do with the grade. I proved that I can write 2 paragraphs and put the commas in the right places and spell everything right.
You sure it was 250 characters, right?
No, that's the other thing. I didn't find out until part 2 that it probably should have been 250 words.
Oh, because it said that right in the directions?
It did and it didn't. It kind of did, but the first lady said that we can either make it long or if we want to be short and succinct, that's our prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
But then after I had already done it, when I'm doing science, same kid who's making all the jokes, she says the same thing. You can make it really long or you can make it really short as long as it gets the point across. And he goes, I thought it had to be 250 words. And she goes, well, that's what they say.
You're
How
fine.
do I interpret that?
You're fine.
That's what they
You're
say.
fine.
I think that the idiots...
And there wasn't an essay in that test that she was there for, right?
No, not in the test that I was taking.
Right.
There's like 20 of us. We're all taking different tests from each other.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah, like this kid's taking the writing right now. And
Oh, I see.
I had
didn't know
already done it.
that. Okay.
Otherwise, I'd be looking over shoulders. I had a 50-year-old next to me who tells me about the 2 months he spent in adult basic education leading up to it. I'm thinking, fuck, should I have done that? Because I did nothing like that.
What, I don't even know what that means.
It's
Is
just
that like
classes. It's like a science class and a math class just to prepare you for the GED.
Oh, that seems unnecessary.
Yeah, because
Not
really, you
everybody's
just,
as naturally bright as us, though.
that's true. Well, that's the thing is,
I feel like if I had to get my GED right now, I mean, I did it as a teenager like you're supposed to. But if I were to go back and have to do it now, I think I could fucking ace that thing.
yeah.
I mean, it can't be tough, right?
I don't know about acing it. Science was
No,
pretty
I wouldn't
hard
ace
today.
it.
I'm pretty confident that I
I'd
passed.
bee my
science.
way through that thing, though.
I'm confident that I passed science, but I'm confident that I got 100% on the bubble test in writing. And I got reading on Thursday. That's gonna be fucking easy.
Oh, yeah, and anything else? You got
And then-
math still, right?
Social studies and math next Tuesday.
Social studies okay, depending on... when Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right?
Right.
Okay, but math is fucking terrifying.
I got about a week to relearn algebra.
High school math is not for me. Like, I dropped out after division.
Oh, I know. That's the thing is I never learned any of this
Me neither.
stuff.
And even, I mean, we've talked
But
about before.
then
I went
again-
through bullshit homeschool high school.
That's not true, though, because we did learn basic algebra and geometry.
Yeah, but I remember even towards the end of 8th grade when that stuff was starting to get thrown at us, I was pretty bad at it, man.
Yeah, it was getting hard for me, too.
Yeah.
Although I was pretty good at it.
But I'm really, really, really good at basic math.
And I remember...
Like, really quick, like calculating a tip and shit.
People at work always ask me, what's this minus this?
Yeah.
Boom, it's this. I remember when I was finishing 8th grade, our math teacher, who looked like a Mormon, I can't remember her name, she came up
Wasn't
to
my
me
math teacher.
and said she was going to, like, advance place me in high school math. And I said, oh, actually, I'm not going to high school.
What?
I'll get my GED. That'll be faster.
Cut to.
That did not work out for me.
Yeah, but have you ever not gotten a job because you didn't have your diploma up until now?
I've always just said I do.
Oh, yeah, because they don't check.
How can you look at that?
It's easy enough, I would imagine.
I said that exact sentence to my boss at work, and she was like, "You do not repeat that to anybody." Podcast. Lying on your application is immediate termination.
Of course, I think it even says that in the terms and regulations.
So calm down. But see, that's not even the thing, because she said that they still hire non-high school. You don't have to be a high school graduate. Most people aren't even American citizens. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Let me tell you what about that.
You know who misspells citizen?
Everybody except
non-citizens.
Non-citizens. Dude, I know a lot of white people who...
Yeah, dude.
For $1 million, most of my Facebook friends could not spell citizen. If they did not look it up and they just spelled it, they would spell it wrong.
But
even though the number one movie in America, I'm guessing here... No, it's Where the Wild Things Are, obviously.
Were you going to go Citizen Kane? I'm confused.
No, I was going to go Law-Abiding Citizen.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it's the number one most respected movie, but not the number one movie in America.
The very people who saw that opening weekend cannot spell citizen. Still.
You should take an online poll.
Let's make sure I can spell it.
Let's get some figures.
ZIT 6776. I'm cutting before